Hello, greetings and salutations, denizens of the internet. I have been meaning to make this video for a little while, and if I get through it, that'll be cool, and then you will see it. Those aren't the words. I didn't even know that you could be traumatized by something that nobody got off to, or like, it's not, you're not being abused when you go through a medical procedure. Well, we'll get to that. But like, medical shit can be traumatizing, and it was for me kind of a lot. So we're gonna get into that now. When I was born, nobody, when I was born, unbeknownst to doctors or parents or whatever, my urethra was too short. It was like a little minor birth defect. And that manifested, there were two ways that manifested. One was urine couldn't fully get out. Like, I eventually had urine backflow into my kidneys when this was finally addressed, which is sort of the crescendo that we're building towards. And the other problem that I guess must have been, well, with urethra's too short, bacteria can get in a lot more easily. So I had eventually contracted a UTI that spread unaddressed, and my fever spiked so high so quickly that I had a febrile seizure when I was 3, but I'm getting ahead of myself. And I guess it probably seemed, I don't know, like maybe it seems like ridiculous. It's like, well, how did this go unchecked for 3 years? And that's a question I've asked myself too, because it's like, wow, I was definitely in a lot of pain. And but the thing is, I was a notoriously colicky baby. And colic, seriously, I think colic is just a word for the baby's in pain and we don't know why. Because, like, colic is just adults don't get colic. It's really seems to be like if a baby's crying and you don't know why, they call it colic. And that was sort of it. Like, my mom was really overwhelmed. She was in a really bad place emotionally. She had really horrible postpartum depression. She didn't bond with me. She didn't really feel a connection with me. So that sucked for her. And then, me just screaming and screaming and screaming all day and all night. I guess, I don't know, like, I recently talked with her about this a little bit, and I guess she brought me to pediatricians, like, for regular checkups, but I don't think she told them. I don't know. It was a different time. And it was sort of the cry it out craze where, if your baby's crying, you're supposed, like, they thought that it was a good idea to just leave me alone in a room, crying and screaming, crying and screaming, to cry it out, which, like, that can't have been fun for me. And I think that all of this really explains the sort of superhuman pain tolerance that I now have. So, anyway, the day of the seizure, it was like cinematic, honestly. Like, my family was looking for a new house, and we had been visiting houses all day, and I had this stuffed little dog named Edward Labrador, who was technically given to me before my birth, and he was my everything. Like, I have few memories of my early childhood, and but I do remember when Edward Labrador needed to go into the washing machine because he was dirty. And, I was, they told me he's going to be okay, but I sat in front of the washing machine the whole time just waiting for him to be clean. And I loved him so much. And one of the houses we walked into, I had him when we went in, and I didn't have him when we left. And, my mom really did try to find him. Like, she, called the people and everything. So I was really upset about that. And I also had a UTI that had now spread and I'm not sure if I was septic exactly, but urine was backflowing into my kidneys, which were also infected. So I had this seizure, and that's how they found out about the whole, like, my urethra and all that. Which, so that was the first episode of like, I don't even know if I want to call that medical trauma, but the pain, I think that just being in that much pain all the time for years probably fucked me up a little bit. And so when I was 7, I got sick, and my mom was like 9 months pregnant with my little brother, and she took me. She or did she? No, she called it. This accounts vary even with the same person over time. So, but I believe that I was taken at some point to a pediatrician, and the pediatrician was very dismissive. It was just like, it's a stomach flu. I remember not being able to keep food down for quite some time. Like, I thought it was 2 weeks, but it can't have been 2 weeks. I didn't miss 2 weeks of school before going into the hospital. Anyway, and again, like, there was just so much going on with my brother about to arrive. So, like, it really went under the radar until apparently one night I was, like, really crying and screaming. So my mom took me to the ER, and we wait, and just, like, I'm like, I just remember the pain was so bad. And they took me in, and they were trying to examine me, but I couldn't straighten my legs. I was in too much pain, and it would make it worse if I straightened my legs, and I was telling them that. And they're saying, like, where does it hurt? And I remember the specific moment that my appendix ruptured. Oh, right, yeah, this was appendicitis, by the way. And I was saying, it hurts everywhere. It hurts here. It hurts right here. So I went into emergency surgery, which freaked everybody out, including me. I had actually recently saw a movie called The Halloween Tree, where a kid almost dies because of appendicitis, and his friends have to, like, somehow rescue him through the spirits of Halloween. It was a good movie, but all that I knew was that this was the thing that could kill you. So I was sitting there at 7 years old, like, saying, like, well, I got to make my peace with this. I might not wake up. Okay. And I think that might be why I've never been afraid of dying. But anyway, that was so painful. And then, spoiler alert, I did wake up. But I was in the hospital for 10 days. I didn't have to, like, learn to walk again, but I was just too weak to do it for about, like, 5 days or something. And my mom was really great at this point. She like was with me she actually spent the night in my hospital room some nights, and was she read me almost all of the Narnia books over the course of that 10 days. And serendipitously, on one of my last days, her water broke. So all she had to do was ride the elevator up 2 floors to have my baby brother. And so there were probably things that we were supposed to do after I got home to prevent problems, but again, new baby. So a couple months later, I started having, stomach problems, and my family just sort of assumed that I was missing the attention that I had gotten, because I did get a lot of attention. Like, all these kids, I didn't have very many friends, but a lot of kids from school brought me big presents, and that was cool. I really did like the attention. I was not under the impression that having a lot of tummy aches afterwards was going to garner that same amount of attention, but whatever. It was, so it was just dismissed. Nothing was really whatever. And until, God, so that was like 5 years, I guess, or 4, because I was 11 when they finally sort of took me to the doctor, and I got an endoscopy to find out that my esophagus parts of it were black, and the rest of it was just inflamed and scarred. So they put me on the, what is it, Prilosec, I think, the stuff that nobody really does anymore because of the problems that it causes later. But I was put on that, and you know, just didn't eat tomato sauce or whatever for a long time, and that, you know, that kind of did it for. I was fine throughout college, you know, medically. I didn't need other than stuff that I did to myself, which is it's because I would cut myself a lot as a teen, and I would regularly need stitches, and sure it hurt, but like not like that much. And it's not, you know, like I wasn't given like anesthetic or anything when I got the stitches, and I didn't care. It wasn't that bad. My fuck. So something like something. I need to gather things. Right. So I just sort of avoided the foods that I was supposed to avoid. I took the Prilosec, and I was pretty good. Oh, oh, and then the incident in 2021 happened, which I guess is important. So, long story short, somebody who I was engaged to and living with punched me in the back of the head while I was running away from him, and like dragged me back inside and kept hitting me and stuff like that. So, and then I refused to go to a doctor about it. When he thought I was dead, he called. Well, he called for an ambulance, but police showed up. An ambulance didn't actually. I don't know why. Anyway, they tried to tell me like, no, you don't have a choice. You have to go to the hospital. And I had seen enough episodes of Intervention that I was just like, no, I don't. I need to consent. If I'm conscious and I don't consent, you can't force me to go to the hospital. So they couldn't. There was nothing they could do, and there weren't a lot of immediate problems, but it didn't take like because part of the reason there weren't a lot of immediate problems is that I just went back to my parents' house and hid in their basement, not doing much of anything for a while. But then when I came out of the basement, I started doing stuff again. Pretty quickly, I started getting stomach pains and back pain, and that was just that. Frankly, I was largely bedridden between like 2012 and 2018. There were some periods where I was all right, usually times that I wasn't eating very much. And that sort of put me off food for a while because almost everything that I ate, I would have to like lie in bed smoking weed and try not to think about it for hours. And I had no idea why. I was not, I had gotten back together with the person who had beaten me up, so like I wasn't in a great state psychologically, meaning that I also was pretty transient. Like I was sometimes staying with my parents, on and off with the guy in Vermont who, with all that stuff, and then like there was a time that I was living in upstate New York for a little while. There was a time I was living in Connecticut, but it was still like I had to spend quite a lot of time just in bed in pain, and because of my early experiences, I didn't want to go to the doctor. I was like, well, you know, well then I might have to go to the hospital. Oh shit, there's another thing. This was more, okay, so after the whole thing when I was 3, I had to go through a procedure where some dye was inserted, a catheter inserted dye, which was very painful, and I was 3, and the doctor, I think it must have been the doctor who performed it. He wouldn't let my mom in the examination room while he was doing it, which was weird. Another thing that was weird was that my hands were bound above my head with almost like an ace bandage, and I was scared, and it hurt, so I cried. That's just, again, like very normal thing to do. And they held me down. Like at least 2 people were in the room holding me down, wearing medical masks, which just sort of added an element of fear to the whole thing. And one of the people who was holding me down, a woman, said that if I didn't stop crying, she would give me a shot. At which point I dissociated for the first time. I think for the first time. I just like left. I would just left the building, and let them do what they wanted to my body. And I think the doctor caught on that I was at least a little bit traumatized, because like he gave me like a little teddy bear and some donuts at the end. I'm actually, now that I'm revisiting this, that guy might have been fucked up. That doctor might have had dubious reasons for becoming like a childhood expert in genital stuff. I'm telling myself it doesn't matter because it was traumatizing either way. And I have always sort of like filed that under medical trauma, where it's like nobody got off on it, but it was traumatic. And I don't know if somebody getting off on it would really change the way yes, it would. I would want to find that person, and I would want to make sure they're not practicing anymore. There's no way he's alive anymore because he was older at the time. Whew. I'm going to have to unpack that with a therapist. I have a great therapist who does EMDR, and I will handle that at that time. Moving on. The stomach pain, the back pain. Okay, so that just persisted. And sometimes it wasn't so bad, but pretty much every time I ate, it would be really bad. So I finally found a gastroenterologist who I trusted, and he was really great. And but we were getting ready to move to Virginia at the time. He did a gastric emptying study, an upper gastric emptying study, which was normal, and he sort of sat me down, and I'm very grateful for him for this, by the way. He was like, look, you really might not ever find out what's going on here. Gastroenterologists are notoriously dismissive of women's abdominal pain. And that it's even worse in the South. So realistically, you might not ever find out what's wrong with you. And again, like that wasn't even, I wasn't upset about it. It was like, well, I'm glad I know that. And then I did fuck around, I went to gastroenterologists here, and, they did the same fucking gastric emptying study. And when that was normal, they were like, have you considered that you're faking it? Because you are. Oh, God. But finally, thanks to my parents really helped me with this, I was able to be seen at Johns Hopkins, which is a great resource if you don't know what's up and doctors are awful, you might want to get seen there. It's in Baltimore. And they found a fucking laundry list of things wrong with me. Up from top down, GERD, obviously, which they had already diagnosed. Stomach polyps, no, not stomach polyps, right? No, there were stomach polyps. And a hiatal hernia, a big hiatal hernia, an umbilical hernia, IBS-C, constipated. I knew that. And pelvic floor dysfunction, and also a cystocile. A cystocile, you might want to skip ahead, I guess, if you feel weird about this kind of thing. But then again, if you feel weird about this kind of thing, you would have stopped watching by now. Is when there's like a hole in your abdominal lining in a location that allows your bladder to just sort of fall out into your vaginal cavity all the time, and there's nothing to be done about it. That was the common theme with all these things that were wrong with me. It was like, well, the doctor who found the hernia, I thought that she was going to want to do surgery to fix it. But the next time I went, it was a different doctor, and was like, look, we don't, unless it's causing really, really major problems, we don't like to do surgery for it. And I'm grateful for that because of the amount of problems that I know have happened with like the kind of mesh that they use to fix hernias. And there were, I saw a physical therapist a couple times for the pelvic floor dysfunction, and I got to try biofeedback, which is a really, honestly, it was really cool and innovative and very fun. Where I literally, I steered a little spaceship on a little screen through sensors in and around my business, and just like if I like so I, to control and steer the little spaceship, I had to flex certain muscles in my pelvic floor wall area. And that was cool. I only did it a few times because after a while, the physical therapist had a student who was sitting in, and she did ask me if I was comfortable, and I did say yes. I didn't know it was an option not to. But so I just told her everything was fine and never went back. She gave me some exercises to do and a lot. She was a great resource, partially because like all of the doctors I'd ever seen were like fiber, 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 fiber. And she was like, if you're eating a lot of fiber and not drinking enough water, it just turns to cement. And also, fiber isn't really helpful for my specific kinds of problems. Because fiber is just, it doesn't help my muscles work. So, but she gave me some exercises to do, and that was really cool. And that really helped. And then through a whole lot of trial and error, identified foods that I was sensitive to. I didn't eat onions or garlic for like 7 years because I was on the low FODMAP diet, only to find out that I don't have a problem with those things at all. I eventually found my GP, who is a saint. Like, she is the person who clocked my MTFHR genetic mutation without even testing for it. But she did test for it, and I do have it. And I didn't even know that you could get these tests for food sensitivities, but she ran me through the gamut of these tests, finding out that I'm sensitive to dairy, wheat, corn, and soy. So like the things that most things are made of, I'm very sensitive to. That's fine. The back pain just stayed though, and I did not want. I did. There were some times that I went to like a pain doctor at one point, but I was just I was on like Adderall and like Klonopin at the time, which is it's really a red flag for drug seeking if you're on those meds. And I mean, I definitely liked what opiates did for me emotionally, although I was trying to treat pain. But it took a while, but because like the back pain got really bad in like 2021, I think, and I just I told my doctor, but she's just sort of, I didn't really get anywhere with that. So like I just developed this chronic pain toolkit where I have massage guns, I have a TENS unit, I was spending $50 a month on Tiger Balm patches, biofreeze, anything else, heating pads, the works. And after a couple years of doing that, and of cycling naproxen and ibuprofen, of course, I was told my doctor's like, I still have really bad back pain that's really limiting. And she got me into physical therapy like a couple months ago. I guess that's why I'm making this video now, when things are actually starting to resolve themselves. And I feel like I could look back on it without ending the story with being like, and I still have these problems and they're not getting better. Physical therapy has been just a game changer. Like, firstly, they identified at least a couple of my problems having to do with weak underdeveloped shoulder muscles, which I blame on the really constructed bras that I would wear. But and then I'm pretty sure that all of this was caused by the neck injury and the head injury that happened in 2011. Because back pain and gastrointestinal problems can be caused by vagus nerve damage, and the vagus nerve is exactly where he hit me. So I think that's why I'm so super lucky that I don't have a huge laundry list of medical bills, And the reason for that is I was declared disabled in 2012 when I was like 22, 23, and meaning that I got SSDI through my dad, if that makes sense. Like, or my SSDI, or I have Medicare essentially because I was declared disabled before I turned 26. I have Medicare, and that is such a saving grace. It was one of the huge reasons that I am so passionate about universal health care and Medicare for all and universal basic income, because I wouldn't be here if I didn't have those things. Anyway, things are good now. Physical therapy, like I said, helping a lot. And I really don't have a lot of GI pain anymore. I have a lot of things that help me manage it. Lifestyle changes mostly, and like a lot of dietary restrictions, but I am almost never bedridden with stomach pain anymore. And that's, to me, that's a miracle. So that's sort of it, I guess, with the medical trauma. And that's just a huge section of lore, you know, that isn't just, it just isn't acceptable to talk about in a dinner party when people are talking about their childhoods. So I just wanted to put that story somewhere. And I did. And it's here now. And I don't know if you watched it, that's really nice of you. Kind of a downer, but so is a lot of my lore. So yeah, medical lore and trauma dump over. I love you guys, and I'll see you later. Have a good everything.